Hey guys, it's Sunday and I want to talk more about dieting. So last week we had the topic about is it possible to practice self-love and diet. When I initially heard that topic, it reminded me of this, but it didn't quite fit, so I decided to go ahead and save it for a free week, which this is a free week, so here we go. It has to do with this diagram. Also the article that came along with it. I agreed with parts of it, and a lot of it I found extremely problematic. Now, where it came from, I mean, the idea that sparked this blog post from this person, I completely agree with. And they talked about how trying to keep the fat acceptance and size acceptance areas free of diet talk. And I agree with that because diet talk can be very triggering for some people. And while it's not triggering for me, it does not mean that I get to invalidate other people's emotions over it. So I try to be extremely conscious of that. And even though I'm somebody who is dieting, it's not something I talk about all the time unless it's brought up specifically. Yes. So I mean, I have a Tumblr that's just specifically for that, and I do not share it on my other Tumblrs. If people find me other ways, that's completely fine. I try to keep my fat acceptance blogging stuff is completely separate from dieting and health stuff because fat acceptance has absolutely nothing to do with health. Body acceptance and size acceptance, none of that has anything to do with health. I kind of just want to, this blog post that was posted has kind of 5 points, and I kind of want to go over those and what I agree with and what I don't agree with. The first point was that body acceptance and self-acceptance are not the same thing. And I agree with that. They kind of defined it, the way they defined these things, and something I do agree with, is that self-acceptance is internal. It's having self-esteem, it's being happy with who you are as a person, and body acceptance is physical. It's being happy with your body as it is right now. Not happy, but fine with your body the way it is now. But just because you're fine with your body doesn't mean you don't want to change it, or you don't have a problem with a certain size, or that you even have a size limit. So I agree with that thought. And I was like, oh great, I'm completely on board with this article so far. Point 2 was talking about the difference between fat acceptance and size acceptance. They're not exactly the same thing, and I completely agree. I'm somebody who considers myself an fat acceptance advocate. I think that being fat is completely fine. It's beautiful. It's normal. There's completely nothing wrong with being fat, and fat is not a horrible thing, and I don't have a limit on size. There are people who be like, oh, your health. This has jack to do with health. It has to do with you have the right to exist and be treated with dignity and not be treated differently and stigmatized for it. And then you have people that are size acceptance, which will believe the same thing but still think you should lose weight. I have a very good friend who has a blog. She's a fellow cartoonist. I used to be in a studio with her. And she's a fat girl, and she's currently losing weight, and she does not believe in separating out those things. She gets really upset with people that say that, you know, you can be fat and be healthy, and she goes on, she doesn't agree with it. She's completely on board with all the, what I would consider propaganda about fat people, that, you know, having excess weight automatically means you're unhealthy. And we get into some lively debates about that, and we don't agree. But yes, she considers, I mean, I'm a size 32. She doesn't have a problem with me. She doesn't think I should be discriminated against. She doesn't think I'd be treated less. But when we get talking about diet stuff, she does talk about health stuff. And I'll correct things that I think are incorrect, and we'll get in debates about stuff. We've learned to not talk about certain things around each other. But yes, and I would definitely consider that somebody who's into size acceptance, but not fat acceptance. So, still on board, great. Then it gets to part 3, and I'm like, pause, what? So part 3 explains how dieting and body acceptance are mutually exclusive. If you are dieting, you cannot be an advocate of body acceptance, or you don't accept your body. I call bullshit. One of the things it goes into is it says that if you're dieting, you see your body as unacceptable, so you're forcing your body to shrink. And I do not agree. As I said in my video last week, you don't have to hate something. You don't have to find something unacceptable to change it. Just because somebody's fat wants to change their body does not mean they hate their body. It means they want to change it. Hate is not the only factor for change. And so I have a huge problem with that, just huge problem with that. Then part 4 was saying dieting and fat acceptance are mutually exclusive. Same reasons, that if you are dieting, you think fat is unacceptable, and so you cannot be part of the fat acceptance movement. Again, I call bullshit. No, I have no problem Like, as I said earlier, I'm a size 32. I have no problem that I'm a fucking size 32. But I'm dieting because, not because of my size, not because I have fat on me, but because the amount of pressure I put onto the earth, you know, the gravity and all that good stuff, science, prevents me from doing it, or prevents me from doing it at a place that I want to. That's it. There are other people who lose weight because usually it has to do with gravity issues, because obviously if you're fat, more pressure is exerted by your body onto the ground, and everything that's under you, especially like your legs, your knees, ankles, and stuff like that, take that brunt. And if you're completely healthy and you have no joint issues, okay, fine. But if you do, it's a good idea to lose the weight. As I said in the last video, my mother had both her knees replaced because she had rheumatoid arthritis. She had lots of damage to her joints, especially like hips down. Losing weight, taking the weight off of her legs without having to be in a wheelchair or something, was helpful for her. And so losing weight is beneficial, not because they have a problem with the fact that they have fat or a problem with the way that their body looks. It has to do with that's better for their well-being. That's it. Now, I do agree that if you are losing weight because you think having any fat is bad and unhealthy and horrible, or you think it's ugly, then yes, I agree. You are not part of body acceptance. You are not part of fat acceptance if that is your belief. I will say that. But you can't just paint all people who are dieting with the same brush. Now, point 5 goes back to me agreeing. It talks about how don't talk about weight loss in fat acceptance areas. I agree with that again in the instance because diet talk can be very triggering. And there's people who really don't give a rat's ass that you've lost weight or what you're doing to lose weight. And that's just not the place to talk about it. I just think it's extremely problematic for people who are all for not body policing other people. So yes, that's kind of just my thoughts on this. I'll link the blog post so you can read the whole thing for yourself if you want. I would love to know your thoughts on the subject. Anyway, I will see you guys next week.